Hi, and welcome back. Happy New Year, 2023. It has been quite some time, approximately 6 weeks since we last met. A great deal has taken place in that time for me. Very in alignment with winter and the purpose of winter, moving into the shadows. Sorting through the inner narrative that serves and that does not serve. Um, I was in Europe in that time for a period of time. Um, I'm just recovering from a unfortunate bout of illness, so you'll bear with me, please, if I am coughing or sounding a little overly nasal in this video. I'm literally just recovering from a very unpleasant cold flu experience. Um, but I am fully restored as far as my mental capacity and spiritual capacity to be present. I should add to that I think we hinted at this a little bit the last time I recorded something for this channel. Um, there has been an enormous amount of resistance within me to the ritualistic side of my spiritual practices and interest in the um, esoteric realm. And a lot of that came from a sense of frustration and disappointment as I saw in the world of YouTube a proliferation, almost, I would say, even um, sort of like a technocratic multiplication of content that was essentially based on neurotic lack of self-awareness. This is something that it runs rampant within these channels due to a lack of self-awareness or a lack of desire to put the personal into the work that's being shared. This is a collective work, and while of course that makes little sense in the sense that you're not actively participating at the time that I record this in this uh, um, experience, your energy is complicit in how you receive it and what you see in me and my way of communicating that can be of service to you. Um, that requires of the reader or the presenter to constantly be in a mindset of openness, generosity, and authenticity. And the only way to do that is through vulnerability and through transparency. And because so many people are looking essentially to validate their egos, um, even if they've convinced themselves that they're on a deeply spiritual path, um, the notion of presenting yourself on camera for, in many cases, large audiences, it can be quite corrupting um, of that process. I, on the other hand, have a very small reach, and that small reach allows me to maintain a sense of humility and humbleness throughout my journey, which is why I have to step away every now and then, and in this case for longer than originally anticipated. I actually put my best foot forward multiple times to record or to explore content and a deep sense of reluctance and reticence would kick in each time. And then I spiraled into a whole realm of nihilism and self-deprecation, self-doubt, and a fundamental understanding that I was living inauthentically because I was so determined to pursue my physical and material comfort. Nothing wrong with that. I'm a human being. Obviously, I have to focus on those things, as do all of us, in order to be vibrant and hopefully grow beyond survival. However, it's a very challenging perspective to live in the world that we live in as it is. Of course, you understand that from your own experience, because we are constantly challenged to negate the intuitive, the spiritual, the evolutionary in many ways, because everything about our culture and society is conformist, and it's becoming more and more restrictive and constricting due to the fact that we are moving towards a totalitarian approach to societal direction and maintenance. Again, I do not speak on this from a moralistic perspective. I speak on it from a perspective of understanding that it makes sense that the ruling class is always going to find a way to control as much as possible. And this is taking form in new ideology, new religion, around wokeism, around basically gaslighting people who have traditionally felt that their leftist-leaning ideology and ideas are anchored in something that forces them out of tribalism to accept and integrate ideas that are nonsensical and have no bearing in reality. And of course, if you look into sociology and you look into the history of civilizations, this is a surefire way to force people into submission, when you force them into a sense of the ridiculous, where nothing makes any sense, and you basically bombard everybody with completely contradictory schools of thought, because eventually people become submissive. Because the reality is that most people don't really want to do that much work. They want to be taken care of. And, in our society, we pay taxes. In a way, what that equates to is paying the government to take care of us, right? Unfortunately, when there are shifting ideologies that we live out in real time, that means that you're paying people to make decisions on behalf of you that don't necessarily reflect logic or reason or intuition or openness. Tolerating or finding ways, should I say, I take back the word tolerating, because it's always skewed towards an effort or something that, as if you're doing a favor to somebody, but more, should I say, integrating people's differences does not exclude independent thinking. It does not mean that you cannot sustain your own ideas, thoughts, opinions, and develop those accordingly as human beings. Of course, that also applies to spirituality and these practices and these things that we're constantly learning about independently, individually, and together. Um, and there are many great teachers out there, and whatever stage we find ourselves on our journey, we will always, when open to it, be provided with the teachers that we need. And then we have to also be able to recognize when we need to move beyond those teachers. For me, I'm always challenged to find ways to explore a commonality that can be useful to you watching this, um, without it being a simple reflection of my own thoughts or my own um, interests. And to also find ways to challenge us. Um, so it requires an enormous amount of social and cultural intelligence to be able to come up with a way to do that, that is engaging and also not imposing. And so those of you that do watch this and that have stuck with me and that are interested in continuing on this journey with me, um, I really appreciate you putting faith in me to always try to find new ways of doing that or evolve into ways that make more sense for this process. So, of course, I will continue to use Oracle and Tarot cards, um, for the enlightenment that they can give us in terms of ideas around the energetic flow that we find ourselves in, or the energetic disharmony that we find ourselves in at times too. And so that we can explore ideas of what existence is and how our spirituality can inform us onto a more harmonious, more edifying, more transcendental path. So my preamble here is essentially to remind myself, but also to remind you of what the purpose of this work is that we're participating in now. And as ideas come to me, as I navigate the world around me and I see the shifts in the tides, and I see how our linear process evolves, I will integrate that as much as possible into the work that we do, so that we can get a better understanding of how to harness all of that into something that we can make work for the collective well-being, as well as for us individually. So let's get into talking a little bit about what's happening. What really inspired me to get back to making content, aside from the fact that I am rebounding from sickness and I was very nihilistic, and I took antibiotics that a silly doctor gave me that I really probably shouldn't have been taking. And antibiotics really have a horrible effect on me because I am very intuitively aware that my gut biome and my brain are one of the same and interact with each other. And as a person who suffers from a propensity towards depression and anxiety, when the gut flora is being affected by strong antibiotics, as was the case for me, it really sends me into turmoil around my mental health and my ability to rise above, and even see myself as a being of light. Of course, I understand the science of antibiotics, and I understand that when you have a serious infection, it's a medical miracle. However, the way that they are prescribed, rather controversially, um, here in the United States in any case, and it was also the case when I was growing up, that we were overprescribed antibiotics. They can be quite evil. um, and I think that they do, in a very strange way, kill the spirit gene, if that makes sense. So remember that when you take antibiotics. I, of course, am on a steady dose of probiotics, and I eat or drink fermented where I can in order to reestablish balance there. But the mind and the stomach are very interwoven, and it's so essential to remember that, especially as we're all in uh, seasonal flux at all times, and this can affect our immune system, and um, and so we have to be mindful of how we treat ourselves, right? Anyway, that's a whole other thing, but I did want to explain a little bit of that to you about why I am now full of beans and wanting to enthusiastically reopen this exploration. Second to that is that I had been doing a lot of reading, and I found it very interesting looking at the fact that, as we're about to see Mercury go direct, and we've just seen Mars turn direct as it moves further and further along its path out of Gemini. Not there yet, but we will get there, and eventually into Taurus, which will also change a lot of how we experience life, because, as you've probably heard, Mars has been in Gemini for much longer than normal because of it happening during a retrograde period, and and then all of our other planets also going direct. So this will be the first time in quite some time that we've had all planets direct, and it will last for about 3 months. And so that will be a momentous period of time for us after having what has felt like quite a long internal process. I'd say certainly since about October of last year, it has felt extremely internal. Um, and So I'm sure we're all looking forward to having the fruits of our labor start to flower, blossom in the outer world. And it will undoubtedly bring a degree of change as well. Which is also, of course, very necessary. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about that is really momentous is Pluto shifting in March, so not too far off from now, out of Capricorn, where it's been for well over a decade, and into Aquarius. Now, of course, this is one of those very important markers of um, moving into the age of the influence of Aquarius, which we celebrate in pop culture in a way of the collective joining together in peace and harmony and love. There is, of course, a lot of that, simplistic and idealistic light. But there's a lot of other things to explore about moving out of Pluto and Capricorn. One of the most important things, which I want us to explore, because I think that it is the theme of the beginning of this new journey for us, is Pluto and Capricorn represents the I want to say the spoiled child. It doesn't represent. It represents the reprimanding and the process of the parent and the child kind of going at each other over authority and authoritarian boundaries and individuation and independence. And this process of integration can only really come from um, the forging process, the tempering process, um, causing the sparks of the child mindset needing to be taken care of, but also needing to be educated, and going through its individuation process, in in direct opposition to the parental authority, um, having its prescribed standards, its defined paths, its defined values that subvert um, individuation. Um, and Pluto in Aquarius being an opportunity to start a journey once the integration of um, child and adult, or should I say not child and adult, parent and a child and parent um, integrate into adulthood, adulting as spiritual beings. That is what Pluto in Aquarius opens the door of process to. Um, I'm giving you a second because I'm sure you're probably thinking about that. So I'm going to read. I forgot that I had this open here. Um, the themes of Pluto, so that we understand um, it a little better, because Pluto, of course, has this reputation of being the great fist of ending, kind of the forcing of the death of what does not serve, um, what must be eliminated. But it's more subtle than that, and it's a transformative planet, and Saturn and Pluto both tend to have they're harsh, they're workhorses as planets, and they turn us subsequently into workhorses, and we go through a lot of travails and um, tribulations as a result of um, the upheaval disguised as chaos that comes from endings and transformations, right? Anyway, Pluto. With its X-ray vision, Pluto reveals toxicity in the systems you lean on in complacency and the things you draw on for identity, status, beliefs, career, relationships. It bears the underbelly of your structures, revealing buried secrets and hidden truths. This is the realm of death and rebirth. It highlights the broken pieces you incarnated to heal in this lifetime, and facing its karmic challenge is your ticket to the evolution of your soul. As it pushes you to shed your layers, it triggers your survival instinct. You may turn to low vibrations such as manipulation and control to protect ideas of yourself. You'll explore these energies through sexuality, where power, shame, submission, and freedom manifest physically. Pluto is your loving but not so friendly guide through your personal underworld. With this energy, you traverse the taboo into symbolic death and towards your eventual renewal. It pushes you into rock bottoms, where, with nothing left to lose, you find the courage to confront your darkness. And somehow in this wasteland, you find your strength and freedom. In the spirit of transformation, remove your armor, connect with your naked essence. This energy comes to free you from the chains of identity and the story of who you think you are. Call on courage and face the sometimes painful truth of what's no longer serving you. Summon bravery and begin the process of letting go. Open to your boundless nature and allow this regenerative process to leave you cleansed and renewed. Your rebirth starts within and will surely echo outwards. And of course, the fact that that does coincide, the shift from Pluto in Capricorn to Pluto in Aquarius, and announcing a new era. Um, because this will be, another 12 years of your life. Not 12. How many years is Pluto? Way more than that. I don't even remember. How 20? How many years? Wait, I gotta figure that out. Pluto orbit years. Let's see. Uh, 246 or 248. So 248 divided by 12. Yeah? 28 divided by 12. 20. So, sorry, it's more like 20 years. Ugh, it's a long time, right? Um, I forgot where I was at with speaking of that energy, but we were announcing 20 years of this new influence. Oh, that this renewal energy also corresponds to all of the planets going direct for us, or being direct for throughout that period of transition. So it is very exciting in that way, but it's also the great unknown, and the great unknown does mean that so many of the things that we are accustomed to, so many of the structures and pillars of our society, of course, moving from Capricorn, rules, um, um, solidity, orthodoxy, um, draconianism, um, institutions, and then Aquarius, innovation, um, intersocial connectedness. Um, you think about those transitions. I mean, one implodes or explodes in order to make room for the evolution in the next, right? So think of how that could manifest, and you will probably be lost for thought, because it's the great unknown. We have no idea how it's going to manifest. We have no idea what's in store for us. But we can guarantee that it will be quite radical. Of course, over the course of 20 years. Um, anyway, that was the basis of where the next chapter of this journey together takes us, because this is where we need to integrate all of these energies. So, of course, that's very macro, and now we're going to take it to the microcosmic of us and our individual experiences, and that's where the cards hopefully will excuse me, reflect those things back to us. So to start with our I'm going to actually start with our underlying our overview from the Osho deck, because we got the Knight of Water, which is the trust card. I'm choosing this to start because I think that it will be the most uh, edifying in terms of how the other cards play out. So let's read the trust card. Now is the moment to be a bungee jumper without the cord, and it is this quality of absolute trust with no reservation or secret safety nets that the night of water demands from us. There is a tremendous sense of exhilaration if we can take the jump and move into the unknown, even if the idea scares us to death. And when we take trust to the level of the quantum leap, we don't make any elaborate plans or preparations. We don't say, okay, I trust that I know what to do now, and I'll settle my things and pack my suitcase and take it with me. No, we just jump with hardly a thought for what happens next. The leap is the thing, and the thrill of it as we free fall through the empty sky. This card gives a hint here, though, about what waits for you at the other end. A soft, welcoming, yummy, pink, rose petal, juicy cloud. Come on. Don't waste your life for that which is going to be taken away. Trust life. If you trust, only then can you drop your knowledge, only then can you put your mind aside, and with trust, something immense opens up. Then this life is no longer ordinary. It becomes full of God, overflowing. When the heart is innocent and the walls have disappeared, you are bridged with infinity. And you are not deceived. There is nothing that can be taken away from you. That which can be taken away from you is not worth keeping, and that which cannot be taken away from you, why should one be afraid of it being taken away? It cannot be taken away. There is no possibility. You cannot lose your real treasure. And that faith required to always remember that ebbs and flows with the processes of time and space and challenges, and whether they be physical, moral, psychological, emotional, metaphysical. You see, the further we move out of the bounds of Capricorn, and the more expansive the energies of Aquarius are. Sorry, I went off on a tangent because it's complicated, because in terms of the shifting of ages, we move in the opposite direction. We're actually like speaking of moving out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, but in terms of the current energies, we're talking about Capricorn into the zodiac wheel counter clockwise. So anyway, I digress. That was just me going off into a tangent in my mind of trying to understand how to explore the duality of a macro image of leaving behind the Piscean, as we used to define it on this channel, victimhood mentality, the sacrifice, into Aquarius being society integration and evolution. Moving from Capricorn into Aquarius, I suppose, is not entirely different in the sense of seeing the opposition there. I don't really want to go down that tangent because it's almost political. So, not political as in partisan politics, but political as in treating us as political animals rather than spiritual beings. I'm just going to move on. And the card tells us anyway, because this is the card that we have next. Move forward. Move forward. Experience the grace of who you truly are. Oh, that's a Sufi card, isn't it? Um, the breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the doorsill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. Rumi. The time has come for you to be aware of the inner glow that is calling you into your place in the world and who you are becoming. Your path is now guiding you into a greater consciousness, a greater ability to respond to all that is around and within you. This is a beautiful revelation that will soon flower into the discovery of a new creative life. Be ready to experience the everyday as if you are seeing it for the first time. Dear one, now you are ready to move forward and manifest your ideas and plans. Let go of the need to be in control and become less rigid. Letting go of Capricorn, right? While it is necessary to have a vision and direction, it is also important to be flexible in your approach to getting there. Innovation, Aquarius. By going with the flow, you will reach your destination in a far more relaxed state than if you keep trying to resist it. Rumi has come to encourage and empower you to stop playing it safe, to wake up and live your own dreams, bloom into new horizons and change. This oracle is prompting you to finish the work at hand and move forward by emphasizing your new direction. Begin by engaging your imagination. Visualize the success of your heart's desire. Satisfaction comes when you faithfully follow a direction through. A freed imagination can give you the discipline and motivation to accomplish the greater goals in your life. It is all beneficial. Do not procrastinate. Know you are safe and protected. Good fortune ensues. And we have a mantra to follow. I am moving forward with the determination to realize my hopes and dreams. I do this with a deep certainty and an inner knowing that I will reach every goal I set and will achieve every aim. And if we're in divine flow, how could we do anything differently, right? Um, our two soul journey cards that came out together, one upright, the other flipped to the side. Doubt. I release the need to know all the answers. Kind of reiterates what we just read about move forward, right? And the other was worry. I am learning that worry doesn't change an outcome. And I can certainly tell you that that's always at the forefront of my experience to learn, um, because I really do allow myself to be consumed by anxiety. And of course, I can know all of the spiritual mantras in the world about staying present and not projecting, and understanding that depression is the past and anxiety is the future. But we're human beings. That's part of the human condition, is to understand that, to negotiate that, to transcend that. And of course, what is our underlying tarot energy of the week to reinforce that? The Two of Wands, the choice. And I'll tell you, when I first saw that card, I had interpreted it when I was pulling the cards as a Two of Swords. And it's kind of ironic that I've only just realized in looking at the card, because this is a new deck. Um, it's the, what's it called? The Wild Unknown Tarot. Um, I just realized that it is actually, these are ones, of course, accompanied by the beautiful rainbow in the background. So, an informed sense of choice and the path opening up where there may be a fork in the road, knowing which fork, which path to take, right? So, um, we have three evolutionary cards from that deck that I took to explain this process of where we're at in this current period of time. And I really don't know how I would define this time. I've tried on this channel to define things around full moons, new moons, um, zodiac seasons. I guess it really just comes down to how you receive it at the time that you decide to watch it. But uh, we are currently mid-January, and so I generally try to see these energies as being the influence of the immediate future when you receive it. Um, so what do we have? We have our root in the strength card. We have our process in the Three of Pentacles. And we have our evolutionary choice in the Hermit. So what does this mean? This means that this very insular, interior, internal, inner process of the last 3 months, I'd say, has been all about gathering strength. It has been, it may have felt like crisis for many of us, but crisis is an invitation for what? Opportunity. And that is how we grow. And so think back to the last 3 months of your life and think of where the trauma has come to the surface, where you have struggled with doubt, insecurity, worry, anxiety, depression, sadness, a sense of loss, a sense of powerlessness, um, and think of how you have evolved through these energies to regain your strength. Now, we're currently in an invitation phase to see the Three of Pentacles. What do we do with that strength? We build, which is what the Three of Pentacles is. And we don't build alone. We build with what is on offer to us in our external environment. And because we're still in this Capricornian Pluto energy, resolving over the next 2 months, I would imagine that things that don't allow us to build in our environment will have to get the old heave ho, and so let's just be honest. We're going to have to shed our skins. We're going to have to shed the excess, the baggage, the toxicity, and we're going to have to be really brutally honest with ourselves about that, so that we make sure that we don't carry that in, because otherwise Pluto will just eliminate it for us. So think about that. Make that part of your meditative process to figure out what is not serving you, what is not bringing you joy, what is not teaching you, what is restricting you. Because that's really what Pluto gets rid of. And personally, as a Leo sun, I'm moving out of a lot of Saturn energy that was very restrictive over the last few years. So part of moving out of strong, difficult Saturn energy is embracing the Pluto energy in flow rather than in resistance, in order not to have the sledgehammer come, or the ball and chain, shattered, breaking a limb in the process, perhaps. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. That Three of Pentacles there. That's how I'm seeing it. The Hermit. Um, the Hermit came out with the Death card, but I didn't actually keep the Death card because I just felt as though it was right behind the Hermit card, just to give us to give me a better sense of what I'm actually exploring with us, when it comes to the Hermit energy. Because my natural instinct when I see the Hermit card is to think of going inwards, even more than um, I feel I already have, which is not what the Hermit is all about. The Hermit is about the knowledge of carrying the light within, and uh, having an unconditional desire to shine that light around us. Um, so it's kind of like embrace your inner sage and make it your new costume. Does that make sense? Um, can you take ownership of that spiritual essence as an authority? That doesn't mean an imposition, it means an embodiment. Um, can you stop looking for permission to be you in that glorious spiritual um, force, energy? Um, we're doing a linear clarification beneath that, with a few cards from a different deck, just to explore what this essence is. So corresponding to that strength card of what we built, what we're understanding is that we were held back so much by having an Emperor in reverse, a disempowerment, a submission to the Capricornian um, restrictions, orthodoxies, um, things that were rules that did not match our truth. And that, of course, was sapping the strength from us, perhaps causing spiritual crisis. And um, Two of Cups in reverse, an inability to see mirrors around us that reflected anything back to us that we wanted to see. In other words, being removed from the process of joyful creation, being in the process of diminishing returns, feeling restricted and unresolved and um, reduced to perhaps a feeling of a low dimensionality, like a becoming almost flat, flatlining essentially. Because where there's no heart, there is no understanding of um, the mind and the manifestation. Um, and this linear process just continues because then we had the Fool in reverse and we had the World in reverse. Again, stopping us from actually rebuilding, stopping us from actually ending and rebounding onto a new karmic cycle. In other words, I'm getting a strong sense that there was a stuckness. We were stuck in a karmic cycle. Um, Usually things happen to us um, in a way that gives us at least an evolutionary process to follow. And when we're in this energy that I'm seeing here, it kind of implies that we've been stuck in um, an unpeaceful stillness, something that actually has caused a great deal of discomfort and dissatisfaction and restrictiveness and a reduction of the light that we were able to access and embody. Um, and then a cluster of 4 cards came out corresponding to that process for the hermit energy that we were talking about, of carrying that light within. And that is understanding, perhaps from that stuckness of the world and the Fool in reverse, that in fact, okay, how am I going to express this? Because I don't know. But while there was almost like a hangman energy of not being able to move forward, or there still is this energy. It's understanding that in order to move forward, we don't require a complete, radical death and rebirth. What we require is, as we were talking about with that tempering process from Capricorn to Aquarius with Pluto, what we require is an integration of the sublime and a elimination of the mundane. I have no idea where that came from, but that's what it just came. So do with that whatever you want. But the explanation behind that death card in reverse is the Five of Pentacles, the King of Cups, and the Ten of Wands. So what that energy is that where we have to explore this. We have to explore where we get stuck in our poverty consciousness that then manifests as a disempowerment of our emotional authority over ourselves, a lack of trust within ourselves about our emotional mastery, and subsequently that causes Ten of Wands energy is essentially like having a fucking nervous breakdown, or just being in the position where we're just exhausted. We are not replenishing our energy. We are constantly poised for defending a cause that perhaps we no longer have any investment in, or feeling aimless because of the meaninglessness of the pursuits that we're holding on to. And of course, that's a constant evolutionary process, is that we have to be able to see what is worth carrying along with us and what isn't. Comes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of this reading. So there is a purge energy throughout this, but it's one that you have to trust is based on your own intuitive work, that you have reached a place where this where whatever it is that you intuitively sense needs to depart, and whatever you feel intuitively needs to be built upon and integrated, flow with it. Flow with it. It has to happen, and you know it. You know what changes need to happen. That's the message. And we will have one last Osho card as a appeasement of any triggering that may have occurred during this reading. To tie all of this energy together, we got the 10 of Rainbows, the We Are the World card. And I'd sing for you, but given that I have still a lot of nasal discharge and stuffiness, I would probably sound like a cat being strangled right now. Where are we? 10 of Rainbows, 156. Let us read the beauty of We Are the World. Humanity is depicted here as a rainbow of beings, dancing around the mandala of the earth with their hands joined together in joy and gratitude for the gift of life. This card represents a time of communication, of sharing the riches that each of us brings to the whole. There is no clinging here, no grasping. It is a circle without fear of feelings of inferiority and superiority. When we recognize the common source of our humanity, the common origins of our dreams and longings, our hopes and fears, we are able to see that we are all joined together in the great miracle of existence. We can When we can combine our tremendous inner wealth to create a treasure of love and wisdom that is available to all, we are linked together in the exquisite pattern of external creation. When thousands and thousands of people around the earth are celebrating, singing, dancing, ecstatic, drunk with the divine, there is no possibility of any global suicide. With such festivity and with such laughter, with such sanity and health, with such naturalness and spontaneity, how can there be a war? Life has been given to you to create and to rejoice and to celebrate. When you cry and weep, when you are miserable, you are alone. When you celebrate, the whole existence participates with you. Only in celebration do we meet the ultimate, the eternal. Only in celebration do we go beyond the circle of birth and death. And of course, with the world being in the precarious state that it is from a westernized perspective, I think that that's had an enormous amount of influence over the certainly the frequency that I've been resonating at, and as above, so below. If there's this much turmoil in the outside world on the geopolitical plane, then of course on interpersonal plane there's a lot of the same things. So I suppose that's something to take into consideration. If we have opinions of how we would not wish for there to be a world war or for there to be some kind of nuclear weaponry deployed and mass destruction, can we look at that in our own personal lives and figure out how we ourselves can reflect that peaceful process that we'd like to see on the macro level in our own lives on a daily basis? And it sounds to me as though for all of us that could require being simply a little bit more attached to the pursuit of joy and celebration and celebrating each other where we can, and being more open to joyful experience. And I know that I've discussed this with many different people in my environment, and it's been a struggle for many of us. So let this be an invitation to the turning point. On that note, thank you for indulging me as I increasingly sniffle my way through the end of this, as I need to go and blow my nose and sort things out. But I wish you peace and joy in this extraordinary year, 2023. And I shall see you very soon. Thank you.